For being highly trained special agents, the special ops teams in Disclosure Day are completely inept. If you found out we weren't alone, if someone showed you, proved it to you, would that frighten you? The truth belongs to 8 billion people, and today is Disclosure Day. It's been about 4 years since Steven Spielberg got behind the camera to deliver us a feature-length story, and now he's going back to some familiar ground that he examined in the late 70s and early 80s. Disclosure Day, it's a pretty relevant title given that the US government has been declassifying reports relating to UAPs. Now here, the story is much less about who will be disclosed, but focuses more on the potential ramifications that the what revelation may have on a global scale. Now, the lead cast is fantastic, with Emily Blunt, Josh O'Connor, Colin Firth, Hewson, Colman Domingo, and Wyatt Russell. And like with any great Spielberg thriller, the story balances the action with immersive personal depth, putting characters we become endeared to into situations that cause us to hold our breath as we scoot towards the edge of our seats. Now, for a good portion of the story, the plot is happening in broken chunks that we know are related, but they haven't been connected yet. From the opening sequence that thrusts us into some unknown tense negotiation, the pacing barely ever takes a lull. Even when there are seemingly mundane conversations taking place, there's an underlying stress that's mounting. Some thanks to previous scenes, but also just thanks to the musical score. It's a mix of melodic and sometimes eclectic choruses that are often then interrupted randomly by a discordant note that just makes the whole thing feel just a little bit off. That unsettled feeling is carried out through most of the story too, taking already anxious situations and then cranking them up past 11. The action sequences are also extremely immersive and exciting. From car chases to agents storming buildings, the camera gets up close and personal so that scenes feel, and maybe most are, unbroken continuous shots. What's especially impressive about these is how seamless everything feels. The camera will follow and then swing around to lead, sometimes passing through walls or windows or even racing cars. I didn't expect such an adrenaline rush that came with most of the storytelling here, and it was effective in making the time fly by. Now, one thing that really bothered me about many of the action sequences is what I teased right at the start. There are a few scenes where a character is being pursued or stalked by these SWAT-looking special ops agents, and the character is able to walk noisily behind them as they're all focused forward, and then maneuver some escape. It was almost comical in one way because the amount of sound that's coming from the subject as they crunch through branches and gravel, along with them just simply running half bent over behind thin brush, there's no conceivable way that any of the agents didn't notice. Did these extreme plot conveniences ruin the story or momentum? No, but because it happened more than once, and then given the hype of the organization that these agents work for, the whole transaction just felt messy and absurd. Since I'm already talking about messy, there is a sequence towards the final act that goes full CGI, and it looked like it came straight out of the Polar Express. We watch a person trudging through some snow, and the movements were choppy, unnatural, and creepy, but not in a manner that complemented the movie. There are also some other moments when CGI is used for animals. It's kind of rough, too, looking more cartoonish than realistic, which I thought was strange just given how everything else comes across as practical effects. But thankfully, the action and the acting help to distract from the wonkiness of lackluster effects and inept pursuers. Emily Blunt is piercingly emotional, and it complements the intense Boy Scout persona that Josh O'Connor displays. And they don't actually share a ton of screen time together, but when they do, there's a powerful dynamic that's both heartbreaking and then optimistic. And then when these are combined with the calming but this weighty presence of Colman Domingo, there's an urgency that only pushes the intensity faster. Now, I love Colin Firth, and he's menacing in an obsessive stalker CEO sort of way here, but I had to laugh because the story makes him out to be a wild-eyed Professor X for so much of the film. And it's not like that what the character does doesn't fit within the narrative, but it's so close to Xavier in terms of execution that he comes across more as a copy than anything original. Now, there is a moral dilemma at the crux of the plot, raised by more than one character, which then creates space for further discussion. But the story tends to gloss over it more than delve into the mechanics and fully examine all that could come about. Now, I'm not saying that the dialogue completely just skims over the topic, but the message could have been more effective and weightier had more time for examination been devoted. Now, to the movie's credit, a conversation between Eve Hewson and Elizabeth Marvel is probably the most poignant within the story, giving a couple of minutes to discuss belief versus faith versus impending reveals. But even if it's not an exhaustive examination, I think that how this story coincides with the timeliness of current events, discussions are going to be had regardless. So at the end of this, Disclosure Day is an exciting action movie that interweaves emotional drama and the question of the unknown. With spellbinding performances from Emily Blunt and Josh O'Connor, the story entrances with a relevant and timely plot, immersive camera work, and pulse-pounding pursuits. While the CGI often looks more cartoonish than real, and Colin Firth's character actions feel ripped from an X-Men comic, the production as a whole is engaging, gripping, and just downright fun. There's no sex or nudity, some profanity, and a lot of violence. I give Disclosure Day 4 out of 5 couches. So what would you like the government to disclose if you could choose? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.